Welcome, everyone, to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. Very pleased to have everyone watching and very pleased to have the gentlemen that are sitting in with me on this episode. As has become tradition, we do a year-end episode where we do our top 10 albums from 40 years ago. So, believe it or not, 40 years ago would be 1985. So, we are going to count back our top 10 albums from 1985 with some honorable mentions. And we've got a crew I've had all of these guys on before, but never this exact, I'm going to call it lineup. So, this is TVC Mark whatever. We've got Will on here, we've got Lance on here, and we've got Bug on here. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, bud, what's up?
It's good to have everybody here. So yeah, we're going to count down what we feel to be our top 10 albums from 1985. 1985 would be the year that 1985 started off with me actively listening to Top 40 radio. So I remember a lot of popular music as it came out really from from here forward. Um, so some of these albums I was aware of at the time. Some of them I got into later, but a lot of them I was at least hearing some songs from. So, as always, I'm curious what we're going to have that's the same and what we're going to have that's different. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go clockwise from as I'm sitting here with our asked everybody to pick up to five honorable mentions. So, we're going to go Will, Lance, Bug, and then me, and then we're going to get into our top 10. So, we'll start us off with your honorable mentions for 1985 when you were minus 15.
Right. All right. So basically, I just ranked 1 through 15, and I'll read 15 through 11 right now. So 15, a band I don't listen to very often, but they're really good live. Megadeth, Killing Is My Business, and Business Is Good. Number 14, I have Bon Jovi, 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit. 13, I have Rush with Power Windows. 12, I have Heart, and they're self-titled. And 11, doesn't really count. That's why it's an honorable. But I have David Lee Roth, Crazy from the Heat EP. It would be higher, but using just full length studio albums for the 1 through 10, I put it as 11.
I'll allow it. It was four new songs anyway, right?
I kept it as an honorable anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. All right. uh, all right. Next up, Bug, what do you got for honorables?
Well, I was in the same boat. Knowing Tim's rules, I didn't want to break them. This would have been my number one album from 85, Live After Death, Iron Maiden. So that didn't actually count as one of my five honorable mentions. Here's one we may be seeing down the road. I contributed to this chapter in Tim's book on Y&T.
That's right.
Got Aerosmith, done with Mirrors. We got some Twisted Sister. Here's one you don't see very often. Thunder in the East by Loudness.
Oh. Yeah.
Crazy Nights was the kind of the big song for that. One that Will mentioned as well, and the only one that I don't have on vinyl, Megadeth with their first album.
At least you got the original cover, right? Doesn't that?
Yeah.
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 Cool. All right, Lance, what are your honorable mentions for 85?
First of all, out of all these records for this year, I was counting the number of albums I have that originated from 1985, and it was 263.
Holy cow.
So I'm kind of a lot of these titles. I've some of the titles that Bug and Will mentioned. Some of them were in the mix, and I feel like I'm bringing a little of a lighter weight perspective on some of this because during the summer of 85 I turned 16, so I spent half the year at 15. I was in a pivotal time in my life. Okay, so anyway, growing up listening to a lot of top 40, watching a lot of MTV, gravitating towards a lot of the hairband stuff, more like an 82, 83, end of 82, 83 and whatnot, but I still appreciated a good pop tune. So at number 15, hold your breath.
Aha! Aha!
Aha! the album is half great with Take On Me, Hunting High and Low, and The Sun Always Shines on TV. And there's a couple. They had 5 singles total. What's crazy? It went platinum in America. Went up to like 15 on the charts. Sold like I think 10 million across the in the world. But here in America, they're like a one-hit wonder type thing. And there's half the record that is like a struggle to listen to. There's a few songs in there. I'm like, what were they thinking? But if you'd asked me 20 years ago if this album would have been in my top 10 in 1985, I would have said absolutely. And anyway, but it didn't make it. Okay, so my honorable mention number 14 is a band which I'm assuming y'all may know a little bit about, or y'all may know a lot about them. It's Icon with Night of the Crime. Now, I don't know if you know a lot of the, Eddie Kramer produced it, Ron Nevison mixed it, Bob Halligan wrote or co-wrote a total of 6 songs on the record. Of course, we all know Rock You and Kicks and, the several other things. Night Ranger. Hello, he was there. He was part of the foursome that wrote on the Night Ranger.
Here she comes again. That's right. Yeah. And,
so
didn't he write a bunch of stuff on Kicks Blow My Fuse too?
Yes. He wrote a lot on that. I'm trying to think. The guy's got such a
Hellbent for Leather. Not Hellbent for Leather.
I know he wrote
Defenders of the. Didn't he write like Some Heads Are Gonna Roll?
I want to say he was part of that. I know he. I mean, I try to remember all the stuff, but sometimes some of it leaves me. But this album, literally, the singer left on the eve of the release, and they had put out one album before that was more like hard rock, and then this one came out, and it's kind of like half AOR, kind of half of in lines with what they were doing on their debut, and the singer left. Whatever momentum the label was going to put behind them, they were on Capitol, but they didn't chart at all. Not an album or single. They had one promo single called "Take Another Shot at My Heart," and it wasn't to me, in any way, the best song on the record. There's the one thing about this album is it's solid. It's considered a cult classic. However, that one single that I think could have blown it up, I think it's missing, and that no pun intended, because there's a song called "Missing" on the album.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that would be my 14. I don't know if any of y'all know that record at all.
I've heard a lot about that band, and a lot of people talk about how they were, one of those near miss bands. There's a song that I heard of. I saw a video to it from the first album. It was called On Your Knee, On Your Feet?
Yeah.
Sounded an awful lot to me like Quiet Riot.
Yes.
That's the vibe I got.
Yeah. And I get that too. And actually, I really love that song. Today, when I listen to it, I don't care even if I'm driving; it gets me on my feet.
Yeah. And I know they did a third album, like in '89, with a different singer.
Actually, there was a third album that came out originally. It was called "An Even More Perfect Union." I had the cassette, and it was only sold with the new singer Jerry Harrison. Who, it's interesting, his tie-in to Icon and to 1985 is that he was originally, Kate, are you familiar with the Rocky IV soundtrack?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, on side 2, there's a song called Sweetest Victory, and it's by supposedly a band called Touch. Well, it wasn't the band Touch officially. What it was there was a band called Marquee that had Mark Torian and Jerry Harrison. Or Mark Torine or whatever, who ended up later in the Bullet Boys.
Bullet Boys.
But anyway, Jerry Harrison and him had a band called Marquee. And Stallone thought that he wanted to change the name so it fit the boxing theme of the movie. So he changed the name like Touch Your Gloves. So it became Touch. But even though there was a band with Mark Mangold.
That's right. Yeah, don't you know what love is? That was a good song.
But the song Sweetest Victory is sung by Mark. I don't know if Jerry got to be part of it or not. It sounds like he's part of the vocals in the chorus. I'm not sure, but Mark sings throughout the whole song. And it blew my mind. For years, I did not know this. And I had to research and dive deep and swim through the internet and talk to a lot of people on the inside of the industry. So anyway, I don't know how that song is a killer song. And
that's crazy how they
they ended up butchering the reissue of Rocky IV when they reissued it on CD. They took that song and instead of putting the original version, they did a remix and it included a saxophone, which was like, it totally like cut the, you know what, off the song. And so anyway, I don't know how I got off that. You know, I can go on to
Icon.
But yeah, Jared did the third album. I've got it over here, but and then they did a fourth album when what do you call it? Eddie Trunk was working for Megaforce.
Megaforce, yeah.
He signed them, and that album is called Right Between the Eyes, and there's some strong songs on it. But the original lineup that was on the first two records, they have been in the studio forever. And they are actually, you know, on the side, you know, they all got careers and outside of the industry, and they are working on an album. So hopefully one day we will get a new album from Icon. So
okay.
Anyway,
cool.
That's a mouthful. Okay.
Yeah.
Now my third honorable mention that actually is another band that didn't chart with their album. There's only two albums that didn't chart. It was the Icon and this one. And this is Fortune.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were signed to Camel MCA, and they had the first single was this song called Stacy.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the song that I've heard a bit of. Like that charted some.
Yes, it charted. It went to number 80. Now the thing is this was a band that was cut from the Survivor Jafria type thing. Okay,
yeah.
And I talked to Mick Fortune, the drummer, just the other day, and he told me it was like the label thought that because Foreigner had released I Want to Know What Love Is as the first single from Agent Provocateur, that they could pull that off with this band and put out a ballad as the first single, which was a huge mistake because the band was more than just like a ballad band. But anyway, yeah, they're kind of like you know, are they the greatest thing ever? I don't think so, but there's a whole underground following that champion this album. There's also the singer here, Larry Green. Y'all may know him from singing Through the Fire on the Top Gun soundtrack, and he had two songs on the Over the Top soundtrack.
That's where I know the name from, is Over the Top.
So yeah, he and Roger Scott Craig, the keyboardist, they ended up forming this band called Harlan Cage, and they ended up having a Europe deal and put out several albums in Europe. But and then the bass player is this Bob Birch. He went on and he was in this band called War Pipes, and he spent like many years, like 2 decades or more, as the bassist / saxophonist for Elton John's touring band until he took his life. So that was a whatever. So anyway, but yeah, the two Fortune brothers, they've since put out, they reunited about a decade ago or so, put out a couple studio albums and a live album. And Tim, you have, I don't know, don't take this wrong, but there's a faint resemblance of you and Richard Fortune if you see him now live playing guitar, and I've seen you pick up a guitar and
okay.
Oh my gosh, that looks like kind of like Tim. But my wife's name is Stacy, and me and her started dating in 1982. So you know, this song here is a little kind of probably too hokey for Will and probably even for Bug, but whatever. Since I'm in this whole guilty pleasure state, as Tim and I have discussed before, this album went gold, but...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how embarrassing is this? No, I'm just joking. I like you, Corey. Corey and I are cool. Anyway, Never Surrender, one of the best songs of 1985, to me, in the top 10, along with Cinema Street, Burning Heart, and A View to a Kill, and maybe a few others. But anyway, this album went to like number 20, and you know, it had several hits, obviously in Canada, but in America,
about 5. I think it had 5 singles altogether.
Y'all had like 2 number 1s in Canada. And I know we didn't get any number 1s, and then one of the songs that went number 1 in your country, Everything in My Heart, only peaked at 30 in America. But he had toured with Rick Springfield and did arenas, and he was obviously big enough of a deal to go gold in America. Last of my honorable mentions, at number 11, Tim, sorry, not sorry, but it made it.
Oh,
this is what probably kept it from making it actually further.
I know. Look at they don't look happy, do they?
They
don't look happy.
I mean, who in the world picked Pink as the background? Come on. So anyway, there are some really good songs on this record. I do love "All in the Name of Rock." What a great album opener! "Face Like an Angel's" is awesome. Anytime at all, always puts a smile on my face. "Summertime Girls," is classic. And I don't know if "All American Boy" should have been the second single, but yeah, this was the album that originally came from Stan
Yeah.
Bush's debut. And what's the crazy is the shortest pop song I think probably of the year. It's like 2 minutes and 20 seconds or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a short little thing. Yeah.
So anyway, for some folks that might be a good thing. But yeah, that's my honorable mentions. So I'm curious to hear yours, Tim.
Awesome. Yeah. It just so happens that of the five honorables, four of them are Canadian. It just worked out that way. And these are, I went through this and went through it again, went through it again. Now this, because it's 85, I got my cassettes out. Um, this first one, now I'm going to call this a guilty pleasure album because I know most people will say it's not a great album. It's a drum machine. There's a credited drummer, but it doesn't sound like actual drums. Lots of keyboards. This is a band that was known for a triple guitar attack at one time. Now they're down to two guitarists that sound like half of one. Having said all of that, I'm still going with April Wine Walking Through Fire because I still think that Miles Goodwin had some songwriting smarts about him. I think Love Has Remembered Me is a great ballad that underneath all of that 80s production. There were a lot of covers on this album. Of course, Rock Myself to Sleep is probably the best known song. That was a song written by a couple members of Katrina and the Waves. Starship did a version of it. Um,
April Wines blows starships out of the water.
oh,
Okay.
I agree. I like the song Wanted Dead or Alive, which was originally done by, oh, wait, don't tell me. I know this. Um, Not Orphan. That's gone right out of my head. Who is it, Lance?
I can't recall.
Oh shoot, they were on like CBS. They put an album out in '83. It's gonna bug me. Anyway,
It's gonna drive me
um,
crazy now.
yeah, it's got some decent songs on it. Next up, um, I love this band. They're a little off my beaten path. Will thinks they're great. He really doesn't. In Excess, Listen Like Thieves. This was their, I think this was their fifth album, and it was their breakthrough internationally. Had What You Need. The title song this time, Kiss the Dirt, Falling Down the Mountain. Actually, I did a review earlier this year, the 40th anniversary edition of this. Next up, great album, super great album by this band. Lover Boy, loving every minute of it. Title song, written by Mutt Lang, could totally have been a Def Leppard song. It's also got one of my favorite reinterpretations of a Bryan Adams, Jim Vallance song in Dangerous, which was originally written as Reckless. And I actually think Loverboy made it better by giving it a three-syllable title because it sings better. But it also had a big hit ballad, This Could Be the Night, which was co-written with Jonathan Cain. But it's got some rockers on here like Steal the Thunder, Friday Night, Too Much Too Soon. Um, I always liked Lead a Double Life. I always thought that was kind of a throwback to the first album because it's a little new wavy. That was a single, but it didn't chart very high. But good solid album. The only album of their 80s stuff that wasn't produced by Bruce Fairbairn. This one was actually produced by Tom Allen. Next up, now the April Wine album, the way I described it, drum machines and outside writers and lots of keyboards could also be used to describe this album, but I like it anyway. Aldo Nova, Twitch, his third album. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I think he writes great songs. I hope he gets some new music out. I know it's pretty scary. He had a fall, and we know what can happen when you get up there in age and you have a fall. But this album came and went with no fanfare whatsoever. It peaked at 60 in Canada, and he's Canadian. Never a good sign. It is very poppy, but I still think there are some good songs in here that could have been hits, like Tonight Lift Me Up, If Looks Could Kill, Long Hot Summer, Lay Your Love on Me, Stay. I'm a huge Aldo Nova fan, so even the stuff that's kind of considered near the bottom, I'm still going to rank. And finally, my last honorable mention, just a good, dependable hard rock band, Helix, and their fifth album, Long Way to Heaven. Deep Cuts the Knife got a lot of play. So did The Kids Are All Shaken. Uh, I don't think it's quite as good as the one that came before it or the two that came after it, but I still think it's pretty good. Those are my honorables.
So I guess that leads it back to me then.
So
for
that
number
goes
10.
back to Will for your 10, 9, and 8.
So once again, I don't have any of my music here with me, so I know this one's out there when I start talking about it. So basically, 85 for me.
You remember it well.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Like it was yesterday.
A lot of bands I loved released music, and of those bands, it tends to be the album I maybe don't like the least, but it's not like my favorite album from all these bands, but a ton of bands that I love. So number 10, I know one of you has it, Y&T, Down for the Count, just snuck in. I do love In the Name of Rock, starting strong. Anything for Money is probably my favorite song on this album. Ends with a good ballad with Hands of Time. Again, not one of my favorite Y&T albums, but it had to make the list. I mean, Summertime Girls, as much as it's their biggest hit and it doesn't really sound like them, it's poppy, it's still a great song. So that is my number 10. Number 9, I have AC/DC, Fly on the Wall, which I also don't have with me. I think Fly on the Wall is a good opener. It's solid. But before I heard this, I would have heard Who Made Who. And I've always loved Sink the Pink. It's probably one of my favorite AC/DC songs. I love that riff. As much as AC/DC has their sound, that sounds pretty different for them. Shake Your Foundations, again, another great song. First Blood always sounds weird to me. Don't love that song as much. But Danger and Back in Business are really cool songs. So that is my number 9. And my number 8, an album from a band I wish I didn't have to have on here just from personal reasons recently, and it's Motley Crue, Theater of Pain. This probably would have been higher a few years ago because I do think this is a really solid Motley Crue album, but I've just lost interest in them so much the last few years. You have heavy hitters, Smoking in the Boys Room, obviously not their song originally, but that's such a Motley Crue classic. And Home Sweet Home, which used to be one of my favorite Motley Crue songs, but I've just lost. I don't know. I'm not reaching for it as much as I used to be. City Boy Blues is an okay opener. I kind of wish they swapped it out for Louder Than Hell. I think that would have kicked it off more Motley Crue style. I think that's a really great song. Tonight, We Need Lovers sounds like very classic Crue riff. I don't know if that was a leftover from before or not, but and Use It or Lose It is probably my favorite song on the album now. But there's really nothing bad on the album. It's just Motley Crue has put a bad taste in my mouth recently, so it had to be at number 8.
All right. Okay, so Bug, you're 10, 9, 8.
Right on. So like Tim, I was 10, 11 in 1985 and was really, really big into music, listening to the radio, watching all the video shows, and got into hard rock, but also like the top 40. The one thing I do find about 1985 is there's no real defining album or really huge album that it's just kind of a bunch of good albums. So I had a hard time ranking them, but my number 10 is an album by Dio, Sacred Heart. This isn't nearly as good as his first 2 solo albums, but it's got some pretty good songs on it. King of Rock and Roll, Hungry for Heaven, Rock and Roll Children. So that's my number 10.
That was the last one. That was the last one with Vivian, wasn't it?
Yeah. Last one with Vivian Campbell on guitar, I believe.
Excuse me real quick. That Dio record, I had an older brother that blackmailed me. He told me if I did not take that record, see, I was Preacher's Son, which I told Tim before. But he told me, along with Kill's Right to Rock, If I didn't take those two and break him in half in front of him, he was going to like tell my dad like this list of things that I had done. So anyway, I had to break that record in half back then as a 16-year-old. So
Wow.
I've got the Keel record right over there. It almost made it into my honorables, but it had to be left out. So number 9, a band that I knew at the time, and I don't think I ever owned any of their albums when I was growing up, but have since gotten into the band, especially since I helped with Tim's book on this band right here called Night Ranger, Seven Wishes. Really, really strong album. I've listened to this a lot in the last year, and yeah, so that's my number 9 album. I'm sure we'll probably hear a little bit more about that one. And also one that Will's already mentioned, coming in at number 8, Fly on the Wall. So I get into AC/DC with the Who Made Who album, and of course, Shake Your Foundations and Sink the Pink were both on that album, which I found weird that it came out the year before, and out of all the songs they had on Who Made Who, those 2 songs were on there. But when I get into Who Made Who, I went back and got all the back catalog of AC/DC, and Fly on the Wall was never one of my favorites, but like Flick of the Switch, I think it's a little bit underrated. There are some good songs on there. So that's my number 8.
Cool.
yeah.
All right, Lance.
Yeah. So my number 8
Number 10.
is. Oh shoot, I'm on number 10. Yeah, I'm used to the one thing. Okay, number 10. Excuse me. 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. Bon Jovi went platinum, which I think it did that after Slippery, because I mean, there wasn't a lot of my friends that knew who they were. I had the cassette originally, and solid album. I imagine we'll be hearing more about it. But Only Lonely, that song I gravitated towards it immediately. Had a buddy of mine order it for. He was trying to do. So I said, throw Bon Jovi in there for me, and I'll pay you that. Ever since I know there was the like 3 singles in America, and In and Out of Love did all right. Only Lonely was surprisingly underperformed, and then Hardest Part of the Night was actually Bon Jovi's first single in the UK. But this was a laser disc of the music videos from the first 2 albums. This is the Japanese one. One of them's a little one. Go figure. I didn't accidentally ordered. I had both, and but anyway, if you ever, these videos are hard to find usually. You know, John Bon Jovi's made an effort to not have them end up on Bon Jovi video compilations for the most part, and because they're not, they try to distance themselves from that. And hopefully one day we'll get a full-blown reissue with some DVDs. And also there's that Tokyo Road live VHS laser disc that came out from that tour.
Yeah.
So anyway, I know Lance Quinn, rest in peace, he produced the record. He just died in this past week. And the guys from Danger had posted about it because he produced their debut album that came out.
He produced this too?
He produced that too? Wow, okay. Yep. Well, what do you know? So anyway, all right. So in my number 9 is a band speaking of passing away, the 2 main guys of the 3 passed away in the last few years, and it's The Outfield. And they had the album Play Deep. It came out at the end of '85. Say It Isn't So was the first single. It did very well on the rock charts, but it didn't even like chart at all on the pop charts. But then they had 3 more songs that popped on the that were on the pop charts from Your Love, which everybody knows that one, All the Love in the World, and Every Time You Cry, which were all top 20 singles. And then this album did go double platinum. And anyway, I got to see them live and hang out with them, and got to introduce them at a couple of shows. I was sitting at in a casino show, and people were just sitting there looking like they were all falling asleep. And the band was about to take the stage, and and concert.
I
Well,
don't see him.
he's sideways. Oh, Lance, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you. Yeah, y'all disappeared for a minute.
Yeah. You're sideways.
That's weird.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, this is how my phone was set up originally. So let's do it.
Yeah. It's got to
Are we-
adjust. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, you were talking about the
Okay.
outfield.
Yeah. So where did you last hear me say? What's the
Yeah,
last thing you heard me
you
say?
said that you said there were people in the crowd looked like they were falling asleep.
Yeah, before the show, it was just a dead audience that were going. They went to go see an outfield show, but they were all just sitting around, just looking like they were, they'd rather be whatever. And so I got to talking to a bunch of people and said, y'all got to get excited. They're not going to come out until y'all get excited. And the tour manager said, hey, come get on the stage and work the crowd. So I ended up working the crowd and then introduced the band, and he appreciated it. And the band appreciated it so much they had me come back to the next show that they performed at, and had me do that for them again. So whatever. I guess I was their Flavor Flav hype man for all of 15
Yeah.
seconds.
Cool.
So anyway, but I don't know. Did you have any opinion of that record yourself?
That's a band. Can you guys see me? Because I don't see me.
I can see you.
You can
I
see
still-
me? Okay.
I can.
All right. Cool. That's a band that I'm probably going to have to check out because everybody I talked to about the outfield says, Tim, you'd like these guys. And I do. I mean, Your Love is a great song. I never get tired of it. And I like Since You've Been Gone. Say It Isn't So is a great song. It's just that kind of, they had that very distinctive guitar sound. And the singer had a really distinctive, like high voice. And yeah, it was good. Now, Lance, was it you I was talking to that saw them opening for Night Ranger, or was that Andy?
No, they opened for Night Ranger on the Big Life tour.
Big Life. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not get to see that.
Okay.
But
Cool.
this album ended up going double platinum, so it was huge here in America. I don't know if it, how it fared in Canada. A lot of times, some of these people like Night Ranger, whatever, are huge here because of hitting the road, but they for some reason ignore going north of the border.
I'm not sure. If I had to make a guess, I'd say maybe it was a gold record. I know Your Love got a lot of play up here, and it did get a lot of video play on Much Music. And I know they also opened for Journey on the Raised on Radio tour as well. So they did get out in front of a bunch of people. But so anyway,
The guy William Whitman produced this album. He ended up produced, or it was engineered, like She's So Unusual for Cyndi Lauper and the Hooters' Nervous Night album. So other than that, I've never heard of any of his other work. But
that's interesting because
I don't know
the
if you know
Hooters,
William Whitman.
the Cyndi Lauper and the Hooters. I mean, there's a connection there, right? It's like a Philly connection kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
thing.
they're like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
cool.
Well, my
So-
number 8.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's thrown me off that I see like across my screen, I see Bug, Will, I see Lance, and then a bigger Lance down on the bottom. But as long as you guys could see me, I know it's all good. So
Maybe it's because I'm talking too much. There's two
you
Lances
know
up
what?
there.
I see what it is. There's arrows on either side, so I can pick as you were. Number eight, Lance.
Okay, my number 8. Okay, as another one of them bands that, as a guy, you weren't supposed to admit to liking. But then again, the age I was versus the age y'all were, maybe, it's a little understandable, more or maybe less understandable. But in 1985, after doing the Bond theme of Vito Kill, Duran Duran split in half. And
Right.
Arcadia was the band that came second. That had Simon and Nick. It went to number
Right.
23. It did go platinum. You had people like David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, Carlos Alomar, the longest running guitarist of David Bowie's band, Grace Jones, Herbie Hancock, Andy McKay from Roxy Music. They were all part of.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Right, there he is. So you were going through you were listing all the guests.
Yeah, but I'm saying, from David Gilmour, Grace Jones, Herbie Hancock, so on, Andy McKay from Roxy Music. What's cool, the same guy that produced Seven and the Ragged Tiger, the previous album, also produced, his name is Alex Sakin, and he co-produced Agent Provocateur with Mick Jones.
That's right. Yeah.
But what's cool about this album art, there's all kinds of encrypted stuff in here, encrypted messages, and it's a rabbit hole to go down. They put a lot of effort into that. Now, as far as the music, it was like, the softer side or the more artistic, artsy fartsy side of Duran Duran. That's what you got out of Arcadia. You had a top 10 hit with Election Day, Goodbye Is Forever, which is actually my favorite song on the record. That was the second single in America. The second single in UK was The Promise, that featured Sting.
That's right.
On vocals in the chorus. And then the third single was The Flame, which I think is a really cool song. And in the music video, which is kind of like an Alfred Hitchcockian / like Clue. It's just
Clue. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
it's Simon totally dorks out and totally gets into his role as a dork, and it's got some interesting stuff in it. And John Taylor, who at the time Duran Duran were fractured, supposedly, he makes a cameo appearance in the video, mocking the fact that I think Andy, he pulls out this like contract, and it's like him mocking that Andy was getting offered $1 million by MCA to do a solo album, and just all kinds of whatever, and hoping that he would still bring him back in the fold for Notorious album, which he didn't. But this record had some very they went to number 23, but yeah, it's not. Some people hate it. Whatever. I don't know. What are you familiar with this record at all?
Or just the singles and the videos from it. And you're right. It was very, very arty. Like we're really going in. They used to call it art rock, like stuff like Roxy Music, and I think they were really kind of leaning into that. But yeah, Election Day just sounded like a Duran Duran single. Really, it was kind of pointed the way towards what they would do, because that song I don't think would have sounded out of place next to like Notorious.
Yeah, they talked about how there was like the most. Sam LeBon joked about this being the most pretentious record ever made because it was just so, grandiose and whatever. But I really, as a big fan of Duran Duran, I loved Wild Boys, I loved A View to a Kill, and if they could have stayed together and gave me an album with the guitars, but Nick Rhodes has said that the band was slipping from his grasp. He likes to control things, and Andy and John were taking it too much in the rock direction, which of course they had to get that out one way or another, and we'll find out if they did.
Oh, well, yeah. It was interesting, the dichotomy there. To me, it may be a strange comparison, but if you look at Journey, Steve Perry sang on We Are the World, Neil Schon played on Hear Name. So
yeah, wow.
sort of like that. Okay, cool. So now my 10, 9, and 8. Well, my number 10 has been mentioned already. Some people might think that I'm putting it quite low, but it is Y&T Down for the Count. And, as everybody knows, I love this band. But probably the second from the bottom as far as least preferred Y&T albums. But having said that, I'm an enormous fan of this band. So it's the least good of a really good catalog. And actually, this was the second album I ever bought from Y&T. The first one I got was Mean Streak. And I remember buying this at my local Sam the Record Man, which is a big Canadian record chain. And I think it had been in the racks for like 3 years at that point. So I kind of rescued it and took it home. Don't like Kevin Beamish's production on it at all. It was another one of those things where they couldn't stick with a producer. I wish they would have, but I basically agree with everything that's been said. I think there are some good songs on it. I think that they must have had a gun to their head to do Your Mama Don't Dance, because that didn't suit them at all. In All American, but they didn't need to do other people's songs. They had enough good. I mean, they had. When you think about some of the stuff that made the Unearthed albums, they didn't need to do cover songs. But anyway, that's my number 10.
Hey, Tim, I was going to say that Kevin Beamish also produced that Fortune record. And hey, the production was lacking. Totally lacking on this. And I think that's one reason why it bombed too.
I don't know if it was all his fault, because obviously he produced REO Speedwagon and those albums were huge, but he produced Contagious as well, but it doesn't sound quite as bad. I think budget might have had something to do with it. You talking about Geffen maybe giving more of a production budget. My number 9 has already been mentioned. Aerosmith done with Mirrors. I have always liked this album. I've never had a problem with it. It's very bare bones, and I think that's one of the things I like about it. Um, I would take A Million done with Mirrors over any one of the songs they've done now with that Youngblood guy. That's just my opinion. Uh, but I think that now a lot of people don't like Aerosmith's version of Let the Music Do the Talking. I do. It was the first version that I heard. So I like both. I like the Joe Perry Project original and I like the Aerosmith one. I like Joey's drums in the song. I love the video. I think the video is a lot of fun. I think that My Fist Your Face is one of the most straightforward like rock riffs in any of their songs, but I like it. Shame on You is just a classic Aerosmith funky bluesy rock song. Um, one of my favorites on this album is She's on Fire. I've always really liked that one. That's got some great slide guitar in it. And I've always been surprised by a couple things. Number one, the song The Hop. I'm surprised Joe that Aerosmith hasn't sued Joe Satriani because the riff to The Hop is essentially Satch Boogie or vice versa. Like it's very similar. And I do not understand. It was on the cassette and the CD, but it was not on the vinyl or the 8-track. The song Darkness, I think, is one of the best songs of the batch, and that was a bonus track. So, like that album a lot. And my number 8, Kiss Asylum.
Wow.
I think an unsung album of theirs from the 80s. I don't like all of it, but I think there are some really strong songs on it. I think Tears Are Falling is one of Paul's best. I love the fact that he wrote that himself. There's no song doctors on that one. Not that I have any problem with song doctors necessarily, but the biggest hit off this album was one he wrote himself. Love Who Wants to Be Lonely, King of the Mountain. I think that I think Gene's got some slight Secretly Cruel, Love's a Deadly Weapon. Um, I would like this album more if it didn't have Radar for Love on it. I've always hated that song, but that's just my opinion. That's my 10, 9, and 8. So
Back to me for
back to Will
number
for
7,
7, 6, and 5.
which this is an album that's been talked about. For number 7, I have Loverboy with Loving Every Minute of It. When I first was getting into music, the classic, however many 5 or 6 Loverboy, the classic Loverboy songs that everyone knows, Loving Every Minute of It was always my favorite song out of that bunch. I don't know if that's still true, but I still love that song. Steal the Thunder has been, ever since I started making this list, that's been in my head just nonstop. Um, Friday Night's another good fun rocker. This Could Be the Night is a really great ballad. Tim talked about Dangerous and how that was supposed to be Bryan Adams' song, but they made it very good for them, and I just think that's a great song. So that's my number 7. And number 6, back to, this is probably the biggest hot take I have on this list. This is a great album. I don't know if I would call it a great Night Ranger album, but I do have number 6 as 7 Wishes. This is so far down my Night Ranger album rankings.
Sorry, Will, you're breaking up. Are you driving under a bridge?
I
I know.
Would you look, guys? Would you look at the time?
I know everyone loves it, and this album is very good in the grand scheme of albums, but for Night Ranger, it's far from my favorite. But you got a lot of the big ballads on here with Sentimental Street, Goodbye, 4 in the Morning. Sentimental Street is my favorite of those. Goodbye, I've never loved, and I'll leave it at that. But there's just, I don't know, there's just not enough heavy hitting, not that Night Ranger's heavy, but the heavier side of Night Ranger on here for me. Faces I've never liked too much, but This Boy Needs the Rock that's a great rocker. That's a great song. So that is my number 6. And number 5, if you asked me even probably 2 months ago, this wouldn't even have been, I wouldn't even have listened to this to rank it, but I have Twisted Sister Come Out and Play. I wasn't into Twisted Sister for I could never get into them, but when I went to see Bret Michaels last summer, Dee Snider was the special guest that would come out and sing 2 or 3 songs, and he was awesome live. He sounds phenomenal and was entertaining and was just getting everyone so excited. And I was like, okay, I'll try again. I'll try to listen to them again. And this time it finally clicked. So Come Out and Play is my number 5. I think the opener is great with the creepy, is that Dee saying the Come Out and Play that just builds up to the song. These great choruses and I Believe in Rock and Roll and The Fire Still Burns. Be Cruel to Your School is very interesting and weird, and the keys during the chorus. And I don't really know everything about the Twisted Sister release and everything, but I could do without King of Your Fools at the end, but I see after doing a little bit of research that that's not proper on the album anyway. So I would just rather be cut at the classic 10 tracks. So that was my number 5.
Do you know who plays the piano on Be Cruel to Your School?
No.
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel.
Interesting.
And the saxophone is Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band. And the guitar, there's a guitar on there from Brian Setzer. I mean, that was an all-star cast on that song.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. The same thing happened with me with Rush years ago. Is I listened to it, I'm like, I understand why people like it. I don't get it. And it just took enough listens. It finally clicked.
Cool. All right. So, Bug? Yeah, Bug.
Yeah.
7,
My
6,
number
and 5. Yeah.
My number 7 is the same as Tim's number 8. We've got some Kiss now. If you think about it, 1975, so 10 years before this, when Kiss was at I would say their peak or close to their peak with Alive, and how they looked then and how they look now. Yeah, quite different.
I always say that they probably wore more makeup in 85 than they did in 75.
True. Like the back album with the pastel colors, just so there was a kid in my grade. I didn't know him very well. He was a huge Kiss fan, and they did All Night in a lip sync contest in junior high, and I always remember that.
Parents loved it.
That's
Yeah.
fun.
Trial by Fire is one, Tim, you didn't mention that I like a lot on this album.
It's good, but it sounds like it sounds like they tried to rewrite "Lick It Up." I think,
Yeah.
But it's good.
So number 6, we haven't mentioned this one yet. I'm sure it might be coming up. Not my favorite album by this band, but a pretty darn good one. This is Dokken. The whole first side on this is incredible, and then you kick off side 2 with "It's Not Love," which might be my favorite track on this album. That's my number 6. And number 5, probably the heaviest album we're going to see on this countdown. It's the second album by this band, but the first featuring, as they call him on the back of the album, Joe Belladonna, also known as Joey Belladonna. But this Anthrax, Spreading the Disease, just an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. Madhouse was the one that had a video that got some play, but AIR, Lone Justice, Aftershock. Wow. That is a classic thrash album and my number 5.
Awesome. All right, Lance, you're 7, 6, and 5.
Yeah. Well, first of all, regarding the Anthrax, yeah, that was a killer record. Actually, I was listening to it a couple times this past week, and it is definitely my favorite thrash album of 1985. Okay, so my number 7, we were speaking about Duran splintering in half. Here's the Power Station. This featured Robert Palmer, who at that point was famous for like Doctor, Bad Case of Loving You, and
Yeah.
Tony Thompson was the drummer. He had the sound, man. It was just thunderous drums. Some people say it made it sound too dated or whatever, but he had a lot of effects, I guess, on it. But you had John and Andy from Duran, but they came out the gate with this one. It did go platinum with number 6 and on Billboard, and it had 2 top 10 singles with the T-Rex cover and Some Like It Hot. There's actually a really cool song in here. It's heavy. It's called Murderous, which is track 2. And so if you like Some Like It Hot and Bang a Gong, Get It On, you will like Murderous. Now, Communication was a third single, which went to the 34. By that point, Robert Palmer was focusing on a solo album, which, of course, Andy Taylor actually plays the guitar like on Addicted to Love. And they had replaced him with Michael DeBar, and they were on the road touring the States, and they played Live Aid with Michael DeBar as the singer. So anyway, that was their debut. I guess it was about 15 years later or so, they got back together, sans John Taylor. And Bernard Edwards, who had produced the record, he stepped up and played bass. And as of right now, everybody, well, actually, I guess the two Taylors are still alive, but Tony Thompson's just passed away, Robert Palmer and Bernard Edwards. So
I don't think Andy's in very good shape.
yes, he's got stage 4. I think it's pancreatic cancer.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And I got to meet Andy and see Duran with him, and he was just Then talk about a band who's two different things. When he's with them, they are so much heavier, and they try to tone him down, but it's just, you see, the live, every time on the record, on the studio records, they would always, drop him down in the mix. But in the live situation, every song was heavier and had an edge. And then the new guy that's been there like for 20 years now, Don Brown, who replaced, Andy when he came back, not even count Warren Cucurella before that, but they never were the same live. It's like it's still good to see them, but they're lacking that one thing that kept them from being totally pop. Andy brought the rock. Okay, So anyway, I've been just killing this with you got Bug over there ripping out all these metal titles, and Will bringing a lot of metal too, and a little bit of just standard rock like Loverboy and Night Ranger, but I'm bringing in at number 6. I would be lying if I did not say that this album, Rick Springfield, Tao. Now this went gold, went to number 21. I think he had multiple platinum albums in a row, and that was the first one that had gone a gold. So I guess that was the beginning of the dip for him. The Celebrate Youth, first single, went to number 26. State of the Heart, the Mondo cover, which he changed some lyrics, and it went all the way to number 22. There was another single that was in parts of Europe and Japan called Dance This World Away, which had a music video, which was apocalyptic kind of. It was back whenever we were all living under the whole fear of the Cold War, nuclear radiation fallout.
Yeah.
So it's an entertaining video. He plays 3 different roles in the video. One of them, he's this Mr. Rogers type fella. One of them, he's this apocalyptic dude, just beating his fist against everything, and then he also plays this Wayne Newton kind of character. So it's an interesting song. I guess I see why maybe it wasn't released as a single here, since the other 2 did not go top 10 like some of his previous stuff. But there's also a song in there called My Father's Chair, which he wrote about the passing of his father. Whenever he originally wrote a song that appeared on Success Hasn't Spoiled Me Yet, called April 24th, 1981, which is like a 1.5-minute song, but he was off here in America trying to be a rock star, and his dad was dying in Australia. And his dad said, "Don't come back here. You got to take care of you. You got so much momentum going. You got to focus on that." And he did. And then he missed out on the last few years of his father's life. And he always, to this day, 40 years later, it still riddles him with guilt. And this song was about when he went back to the funeral, and was there in the living room with his his dad's chair, and knowing that his dad was never going to sit in that chair again. So, not trying to be too heavy-handed or heavy-hearted, but it's a really sad song. He can't even seem to perform it without shedding a tear, which I don't know if that's just his great acting skills or not. I don't know, but and then there's a song called Written in Rock, which is really cool because it's about the perspective of him when he had recently got married after being years of just sowing his oats, and then just trying to come to terms with the permanence of marriage, and which it's amazing that his marriage has survived all these years because of him questioning his marriage so openly in his lyrics, as well as his detailing all of his infidelities. And so that's one thing about him that I always appreciated, where, some people would write a song or write an album in the pop world, and it would be just to move of units, and the dude himself would write stuff that was going on in his life, and put it out there and hope that it stuck. And sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. But anyway, it was more than just a handsome face with that guy. Okay, if we were doing the #1 album cover of the year,
I bet I know where this is going.
I'm sorry, but I would have to say Rat and Roll, baby. Hang on a second, Matt. All right, Tim. All right, so there, yeah, Marianne Gravatt in all of her glory, here on the cover of Rat's second full-length studio album, Invasion of Your Privacy. This album did go double platinum. Some people think it's not as good as the debut. I'm right there. It depends on what time of the day you ask me. It had 4 singles, Lay It Down, which actually went to number 40, which is absolutely crazy for such a heavy riff song. And, but it went to number 40 on the pop charts. You're in Love, which you think would have fared better, only peaked at 89. And that song you think would have crossed over to the pop charts more. Even though it's faster, it's still, though, you think they would have reeled in more mass audience or whatever. There was a third single that didn't have a video, What You Give Is What You Get. The album itself, my one underrated song for me, and some people may say it was too generic, but I love Give It All. I love the rhythm guitar that Robin's, dropping, and you got Warren just blazing over in the guitar solo section of that song. And it just, to me, it takes that song to a whole nother level. So that is my number 5.
Cool.
Oh, I would say one last thing. That You're in Love video, there's live footage in the video. There's some scenes, that have some old Hollywood stuff, but the live scenes were taken from the Biloxi Coliseum show and the Shreveport, Louisiana show. And those two, I wouldn't at either one of those shows. I do have, like I said, I think I showed you a T-shirt in one of our previous videos from that tour. But both of those venues that they took the video footage from, I fortunately have gotten to see, like Damn Yankees at the Shreveport Coliseum, and I've seen everybody from Bon Jovi / Skid Row on the New Jersey tour at the other Coliseum. So it was kind of cool to be at a place where something actually had been filmed and whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, my number 7 is Invasion of Your Privacy. I'm of the opinion that there's no such thing as a bad Rat album. I think they were an incredibly consistent band. I wish there were more albums. Like, I wish in more recent years they'd been able to get over themselves and get it together, because when they did get together and put something out, it was generally quite good. I think there's a lot of great songs in here. I mean, Never Use Love is great. What You Give Is What You Get. You Should Know By Now. Like, I mean, I can just read these song titles and get the songs in my head. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's got that magic that Out of the Cellar has, but it's good. It's not a bad, there's no bad songs in here. Lay It Down's an incredibly heavy song to have been issued as a single and actually dented the top 40 in 1985, considering what else was on the charts. I think that they were benefiting from coming off of having a number 12 song with Round and Round, which granted was also pretty heavy to get that high.
Hey, I was going to tell you, speaking of that, Lay It Down, that, Marianne Gravatt, she also was in the Zebra video for No Telling Lies, in case you needed a little more Marianne in your life. She's also in a Rick Ocasek video. That's something to grab for. So I know a lot of people always talk about, this album cover. So I had to let her,
That record of yours, is that a cutout?
This one was a cutout, yes. I had bought this I bought it on cassette back in 85. And then it's funny, is I had bought this on cassette, and I had at the time, as I've told you, I kind of had to hide. It was hard to hide too many vinyl in our house. So I had to pick and choose the stuff that was that I knew was going to get myself in trouble. I bought on cassette. And
it was smaller,
Vinyl. So it is crazy that it ended up being a cutout. But I did buy the recent reissue, the box set on vinyl as well as CD. So But I hate. I couldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe that this got cut out though, because
Well, I'm guessing what happened was that's when they were cutting out vinyl, period, right? Vinyl just wasn't selling.
yeah,
It
that's
wasn't that that
probably
wasn't a successful album. Um, all right, next up, this album's already been mentioned. This is actually my favorite Dokken album for whatever reason, Under Lock and Key. And it, oddly enough, it wasn't until I was talking to Martin Popoff once about Dokken that he pointed out to me that that Dokken logo in the middle is actually shaped like a key. I'm like, I feel like I should have known that. But I love this album. The Hunter, Lightning Strikes Again, um, Will the Sun Rise? Will the Sun Rise? There's another, Cold War kind of song. Man, that inspired so many. In My Dreams is the biggest hit from this album. Funniest thing about that song, I don't know how many people out there remember this, but this actually, it seems like a fever dream, but it actually happened. In 1991, there was a pop group. There you go. The Party.
Mhm.
They were a pop group and they actually scored a minor hit with a cover of In My Dreams. And my sister's 4 years younger than me. I was taking her and a friend of hers somewhere. I was driving them to her friend's house and they had the top 40 radio going. And I hated most of what was on there. And then I think a countdown was on. It's the only reason I heard it because it was on low in the charts. And this song came on and I just about drove off the road. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me like that. And so I played it for my sister. I said, because she did like Skid Row and some of that stuff, like whatever was really popular. I said, that's a cover song. I'm gonna play you the original version of that because that's actually a hard rock song. Hey, and I've never heard any of the Dokken guys talk about it, but it probably made them some money in 1991. So
Yeah.
anyway,
It
uh,
went to number 34 here in America. So
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a
it's
big,
better than what Dawkins
yeah,
single had done.
yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, really, just one of those really weird side notes. And my number five is a band that I had the pleasure of seeing a version of earlier this year, Vandenberg, and the third album, Alibi. I saw Adrian Vandenberg this year in his band that he's got now, totally different band, but they were great. Played mostly Whitesnake songs, but I don't think they did a bad album. I think that Bert Heerink, the original singer, had a great voice. And they had a hit with Burning Heart, a minor hit, but their next two albums didn't do anything. I don't know. I don't think this third album did much of anything at all, but I think there's some great songs in here, like All the Way. Uh, How Long could have been a hit single. It's a great ballad. The title song could have been a hit because it's a good mid-tempo rock song. There's some heavy stuff on here like Fighting Against the World and Voodoo and Pedal to the Metal. But I'm a huge fan of all the Vandenberg stuff, so that's my number five.
Cool.
So back to me.
Yeah.
So, Bug talking about the heaviest album on the list with Anthrax. I don't know. I have an album at number four. It was a follow up to a huge album, Prince,
Oh,
with Around the World in a Day. Maybe not that heavy, but it's still pretty good. So this is Prince's seventh album, but really it's the third album with The Revolution. Obviously followed up an album probably everyone knows with Purple Rain. Still went 2 times platinum. Went to number one on the Billboard 200. And I love Prince, and this is an album that I never get tired of, front to back. Just starts off with the title track "Around the World in a Day," which is a great song. Raspberry Beret was, I think, the biggest hit off this, and Pop Life also charted quite well, I believe. But just everything on here, Paisley Park. Um, Condition of the Heart is a very Prince, just super weird. This is like psychedelic rock pop album for him. America is good. Temptation, the closing tracks, really good. Um, but yeah, it sounds like Prince, basically. I don't know if he can have psychedelic rock pop because all of his stuff is quite weird for the most part. So that is my number four.
I remember America got a lot of airplay, and I think it almost hit the top 40, but I do remember hearing that on the radio. I think that peaked at 46 or something.
Yeah, I think Raspberry Beret is a song that it's got to be one of my favorite Prince songs. It's just so strange.
I think that went to number two. I can't remember what kept it from the number one spot, but that was a huge, huge song.
Take it right off. So my number three, an album that's been talked about very recently. I have Dokken, Under Lock and Key, and Tim saying he never clued in that that was a key. I always thought, well, obviously that's a key, but until right now, I never clued in that's the Dokken logo.
Oh, well, there, fair enough.
So I was like, oh, that's obviously a key that makes sense. I never clued in that was the Dokken logo until right now.
Hey, Will, that's the same way. I knew it was a key for like 20 years. And until like 2005, I was like, wait, it says Dokken. Like, how did I miss that?
Yeah. So this was my favorite Dokken album, and then it wasn't, and then it was again. It's just so neck and neck for me with the debut. Like, I think they're head and shoulders above everything else they did. But as of right now, this is my second favorite Dokken album. I mean, but it's killer opening with Unchain the Night. In My Dreams is obviously good. Lightning Strikes Again. I love that song. It's Not Love. Really, this album is just great, front to back. So I'll keep that short because everyone's talking about that. And I think we might hear about it again, maybe. And my number two is an album that's been talked about a couple times, and it's Ratt, Invasion of Your Privacy. So this is, again, this is, I guess, my second least favored Ratt album, but they're all so good and so consistent that it still makes it to number two on my list. I don't think it's as strong as the debut. I don't even think it's that close. But Lay It Down is one of the first, probably the second Ratt song I ever heard, strictly because it's on Guitar Hero 2. So before I even got into Ratt, I knew about that song. You're in Love is the song. I was in second year university, and I just played that on repeat because I found it and loved it. And a few short weeks after that, I was just obsessed with the band, and they've been one of my top 5 bands since then. But just everything on here is so good. Between the Eyes, What You Give Is What You Get, Got Me on the Line. They're just a really consistent, and the albums are pretty short. The breaks between songs are really short. They're easy to listen to. It's just great. And I guess the cover's pretty good too. So that's my number two.
Cool. All right, Bug.
All right, we haven't heard from this band yet. I figured that might be the case, but I'm a big fan of this band, and it is Wasp with their follow-up Wild Child and Blind in Texas, probably the two best known songs off this. They both had videos that got some play on Much Music and MTV. Jack Action, though, is probably one of my favorite Wasp songs, a little deeper cut, but that's my number 4. The Last Command by Wasp, 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. I think we've seen this one already. Bon Jovi. I'm not going to add a whole lot more to it. Just didn't get into this until Slippery When Wet came out, and then got back to the first two, but solid album all around. And my number 2 is the same as Will's. We've seen this from everybody already. This is Ratt, Invasion of Your Privacy. You should know by now is my favorite deep cut off of that one. So that's my number 2, Ratt.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right, Lance.
Cowbell. You get a little cowbell, and you should know by now, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Yeah, so my number 4. Now, for some folks, especially younger ones, y'all probably thought these guys were dinosaurs by the time this album came out. And this album originally was supposed to be titled Arcadia. But at the last hour, they changed it because they didn't want confusion with the Duran Duran side project. So I'm speaking about Asia.
Oh,
Asta.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, this was supposed to be called Arcadia. Now, this, you notice that one guy's mitten is not there. Tim, do you recognize who's not there?
Oh yeah, it's not Steve Howe. It's Mandy Meyer from Crocus.
Yes, Mandy Meyer, from Crocus, who had he came in and they were hoping that he was going to bring a little more of a metallic sound, whatever. Of course, basically Wetton, after the Asia thing where Greg Lake had replaced,
that was weird.
what it was between John Wetton's alcoholism. Fortunately, John Wetton has an autobiography, and because I got to meet him before and talk with him for a while at length, and had some cool opportunities with him in some of the Asia camp. I ended up getting included as like a mentioned in the back of his book, so that was kind of cool. And it was really sad when he passed, though. But anyway, Mandy Meyer comes in. He also was in Cobra with Jimmy Jamison.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you see him right here.
Okay.
And then, of course, Jimmy's right here.
Yeah.
So this was the most recent band. He had been in Crocus and toured 2 years with Crocus, but it wasn't on any of their earlier studio albums. He was on a bunch of later studio albums, but at this point, he had done, I don't know if you know Only You Can Rock Me, but that's a pretty cool song that had a video from Cobra. But anyway, so he comes into the Asia fold, and the first single was Go, and I liked it. I thought everybody was going to get on board with it. Apparently, it did. The album didn't certify. I mean, you had the debut that sold, it was like the highest selling album of 1982. And then the follow-up, Alpha, only did like a third of that. And it still went platinum. But this one didn't do anything. And I just think a lot of it was because of the changing of the times, whatever. Geffen. Also, the whole instability with Wetton leaving, coming back, and then basically I will come back, but Hal's got to go. And then Hal went and did the GTR thing, which is wild because Jeff Downs produced it or co-produced.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and so he was still, and he was getting along with both. He was kind of like the guy caught in between. But anyway, the Asia record, Go was the first single. It did not do terribly well. It only peaked at, what was it? I
thought it peaked at 46. I think it's a really cool song that was probably missing a soundtrack. That could have been a soundtrack hit. But I do remember hearing that right around the end of 85. I think that's a really cool song.
Oh, I love it. And, and then in the more recent years when, John Payne was there for the singer for a while, they would play it when he was, throughout the whole time Wetton was gone. But Wetton, that song, it did peak at 46, but it was number 7 on the rock charts. So that says something. Another song that charted on the rock charts called Too Late, which is a rocker. I would say it's kind of like Don't Cry, but a little heavier and less popular. And then there was a ballad, a really moody ballad called Wishing. That's a really good song. There's a track, the second track on the album is called Voice of America. And it was John Wetton's ode to Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, the music of that. And it's really a good song. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard much of the rest of this record, but there's a song called Rock and Roll Dream that goes is not what it seems. Who is the dreamer now? There's some good songs on here. There's a few that, I think they could have dropped and replaced, but anyway, as a whole, I love this record. It only peaked at 67 as an album, and it was another one of those late year releases that that did most of its chart single success or lack of it for this band. But 86. A lot of times you think of certain albums and you're thinking more 86 than you are 85. Yeah. But anyway, so that's my number 4. My number 3 has been talked about, and it is arguably my favorite Dokken album. The only one that once in a while rivals it is Back for the Attack. And I think the only reason why maybe Back for the Attack isn't my favorite is because there's just so many songs in it. Sometimes, it's great if they're all songs like Heaven Sent or A Kiss of Death, but then when you start having songs that are just kind of obviously album tracks rather than whatever, it kind of can weigh down, kind of an album. I mean, Tim knows kind of the...
you get a little fatigue, right? I mean, that's got 13 songs on it, and that's not even if you get the deluxe version that has the song Back for the Attack.
Yeah. So anyway, this album peaked at 32 on the charts, did go platinum. The 3 singles, The Hunter, In My Dreams, and It's Not Love, all had videos. They had a home video that came out. A song that should have been a single to me is "Unchained the Night." I think that song is awesome. I mean, and in some ways, sometimes if you listen to it, you can like it's very, I guess, Dream Warriors kind of seems like it's kind of
Yeah, I hear that.
you know, it kind of whatever. There's something about it that's similar, other than the fact that they're both heavier Dokken, you know, songs. But there are some of the heaviest songs Dokken's ever recorded on this record, like "Lightning Strikes Again," "Till the Living End." As cheesy as it may be, pop wise, "Don't Lie to Me." I love that song.
That could have been a single. So could, like, they had 2 ballads on there they didn't touch, "Slipping Away" and
Yeah,
"Jaded Heart."
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think "Slipping Away" or "Jaded Heart" was up to the standard of "Alone Again." So maybe that's
No.
why they did not get released as singles. But to me, if there was if somebody said, "Lance, I hear you like pop metal or hair metal, glam metal, whatever. What is one song that just shows you that genre shining at its finest for a pop metal song?" There is no better pop metal song in the world than "In My Dreams." I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
the harmony singing is great.
the guitar solo,
Yep.
everything is just, it is just, I don't know how that song, you know, we're talking about how "Lay It Down" went to number 40 or whatever. And there was hair metal stuff like "Turn Up the Radio."
Yep.
You know, that came out as singles in earlier, late 84, early 85, but, you know, that did well on the charts. But this song, to me, it had hit all over it. And I don't know how it didn't just, like,
Yeah, it peaked at 71 or something.
yeah,
like,
77, I think. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it went like 12 or something on the rock charts or something. But
Yeah.
still, that song is awesome to me. So I'm glad that's so far. I think is the only. Is that the only one that's been on all 4? Or that one and
Rat.
Dokken?
Dokken and have we all talked about Y&T? No.
No.
Honorable mentions.
So yeah, at least honorable mention. We've all talked about Y&T, I think.
Yeah. So who would have thought "Down for the Count" would have been
Yeah.
such a elite title? All right, my number 2, which I've been bringing a lot of polarizing stuff to the mix tonight, and I've noticed in y'all's list, and I'm actually keeping track of them. So whatever. But my number 2 album of 1985 went gold. It peaked at 84 on the charts. It was on Enigma.
Oh, yep. I was gonna say it must be Stryper if it went gold and it's on
Stryper,
Enigma.
Soldier Under Command. Now, this was the first pressing that had the white vinyl when it first came out. I noticed I got 3 of the 4 signatures. This was I got this signed on the "In God We Trust" tour. Oz Fox had some pyro that went off in his eye the night before, so he skipped out on. He walked in and said, "Sorry, y'all, I can't stay. I got to go to the doctor." But anyway, and I've never bothered to get it signed by him in all the years since. I don't know why I always forget. But the album itself had one single/video on MTV, which was really cheaply done for "Soldier Under Command," the title track. Now,
It's just them in the studio, isn't it?
yeah, and so to me, if they'd have had a better budget for that, I think it could have helped that song out terribly. You know, I mean, they also with my favorite song from the album is called "The Rock That Makes Me Roll." If that song does not pump anybody up, I don't know how familiar are all of y'all with "The Rock That Makes Me Roll" or this album.
Not at all.
I just know a few of their singles.
I promise you, this was a lot of people, like Michael Sweet says this is their best album. Okay, so I know people say "To Hell with the Devil" probably is, but you know there are a couple of moments where they have some ballads like on here. One of the singles was "Together as One," which is the, if "In My Dreams" is the quintessential pop metal song, this is the quintessential "Get Married To" song. This was the "Love of a Lifetime" before "Love of a Lifetime." Okay.
Okay.
So this was that was "Together as One," and though it didn't have a video, this single here, "Reach Out," which was more along the lines of like a "Calling on You" type song. But anyway, they did well enough. I mean, actually, the band, the label, had such high expectations for them before they even put out that album. They recorded this Live in Japan tour for VHS and Laserdisc release. So that actually some of the lyrics on the album are different than on that, because he went in and sang the songs, and then obviously they realized, okay, some of these lyrics could be improved, so they went back and re-recorded some vocals and then put out the album. But anyway, I know some people can't stand them because of whatever their faith or whatever, but I love it. And and as a preacher's son who it was like, Dad, see, it's okay, not all metal's bad, And so it's okay, Dad. And then of course he still thought they all like women and whatever. But this kind of helped pattern what I looked like for the latter half of the '80s and early '90s. So yeah. So if you see any really bad pictures of me online, you blame Stryper,
Stryper. Okay.
and John Bon Jovi, whatever. Okay, so that was my number 2.
All right. So great. I love it. The variety and the things that are in common have been really good. My number 4 has not been mentioned. I could be the only one that mentions this. One of my favorite unsung Canadian bands, Coney Hatch, and their third album, Friction, came out February 1985. This is the US version on Mercury. Of course, they were on Anthem in Canada. This album was different because they have a different drummer on this album. They didn't have Dave Ketchum, who's been their drummer, who was the drummer in the first 2 albums and then came back after this album and any of the reunions they've done, and he's still with them to this day. The drummer on this album was Barry Connors, who came from a band called Toronto. Were probably best known for a song called Your Daddy Don't Know. They were sort of I don't want to say a poor man's heart, but they had a girl singer and a girl guitar player, and then a bunch of guys. Another one of the members of that band, the bass player, was Gary Lalonde, who went on to Honeymoon Suite. Actually, Toronto probably more like Pat Benatar than Hart, although Toronto did originally do the song "What About Love" before Hart did it. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with this album. Like the last album, Out of Hand, Friction was produced by Max Norman. It's a really, really thick, heavy song on this. I'm not typically a fan of Max Norman's production, but this album sounds huge. As soon as that first song, This Ain't Love, comes on, it's got some drop D on it, which was not commonplace at the time. There are songs on this album that could have been major hit singles. She's Gone, Girl from Last Night's Dream, Fantasy. Carl Dixon, one of my favorite singers from the era. He's all over this album. Unfortunately, there was kind of a little bit of attention because the previous 2 albums, it was like evenly split between him and Andy Curran on lead vocals. Andy only gets 1 lead vocal on the song. It's a good one. It's a heavy one, Wrong Side of Town. But I think everybody on this album just shines. Steve Shelsky is a name that you never hear mentioned, but he was a ripping guitar player. Some of his leads, especially Wrong Side of Town, are just excellent. If you like hard rock that's sometimes on the pop side, sometimes on the heavier side, Coney Hatch were just the perfect band. And I hope they do another album. Last time I talked to Sean Kelly, he so much as admitted there probably would be another album, but he couldn't say too much. I hope there is. But anyway, Friction. I mean, there's not a bad Coney Hatch album. This is just the one that came out in '85. So that's my number 4. Number 3 is the album that I've probably in its entirety heard for the longest time, because when Slippery When Wet became huge, I was all about Bon Jovi. So the summer of '87, I was listening to the first 3 Bon Jovi albums pretty much nonstop. So 1700 Degrees Fahrenheit had to be, and this is the cassette this is one of the cassettes I've had the longest. I know every single ad lib and everything on this album.
Hey Tim, was that something they did with all the cassettes back then, like over in Canada with that red?
Well, no, I think they just did that to match, like to go with the color that's on the. Because if you see the early version of the first album, it's kind of got that same beige.
Okay, yeah, mine obviously was not like that. I'm trying to see if I can even.
No, well, yours probably looked like my Coney Hatch Friction, something like this. That's the cream color.
Yeah, that's the way mine looked.
Yeah, and it also, the American one would look like this on the side. But I think one of my favorites from the early Bon Jovi catalog, and as you said, Lance, it was a single in the UK, and I think it was a single in Japan too. Hardest Part is the Night. I think that should have been the first single from this album. I think that could have been a big hit. Love that song. There's a really cool version of them doing that song. I want to say it's live in a studio. I don't know if it was for a Japanese TV show, but man, they sound good. Even John on like John's actually playing the rhythm guitar part. And yeah. Also, when you held up that breakout laser disc, I've never seen one of those smaller sized ones before. I'd only ever seen the 12-inch sized.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
go figure. It's just little mini thing. I had made a mistake when I bought this. Was looking. I thought they all came in the same size. So when I was looking for this with the size, looking for it going through my collection, I didn't end up seeing it. And then I bought it and I got it in, and I'm like, well, man, I already got this, but I just got it on the regular, size.
Now, will that play on a regular Laserdisc player, or do you have to put an
it
adapter?
plays. Yeah, it's just like the way a CD, has that inner tray to
Oh
accommodate.
yeah. Okay.
It has the same like that on a
Gotcha.
Laserdisc player. So yeah, but
So 1700 is my number 3. My number 2 is a fantastic album. But it's all good, Will. It's all good. Um, Actually, to be honest with you, as far as the songs that we're talking about, Sentimental Street is probably the song I've been listening to the longest. But I didn't hear this entire album until '89 when I actually bought it, and it was the first Night Ranger cassette that I bought. Not this very one, but this is a US one. But I do like the fact that they were a big enough band that the cover they stretched it all across the J card. But this was another platinum album for them, and it's often been said that this is the album that solidified their career. Because if it hadn't been a hit, then that they would not have had the career. But Midnight Madness was a platinum album. They had Sister Christian, obviously, but they also had When You Close Your Eyes and Rockin' America. This proved that they weren't a fluke and that they were going to be in this for a while. Now, unfortunately, they didn't maintain that, but I just think this is a great album. If there was one song on this that I would replace with another song, I would take Night Machine off and replace it with something else. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm saying it feels like a B-side to me, but Interstate Love Affair, the title song, Seven Wishes, so cool. I Need a Woman. I Will Follow You could have been a single. This Boy Needs to Rock. I really like Faces. But anyway, Sentimental Street's one of my favorite songs of all time. Obviously, I love this band. So that's that and Bon Jovi, and the one that's going to be at number 1. I had a hard time figuring out where I was going to place them all. So Seven Wishes is my number 2 for the year.
So the number 1 album of 1985, huge shocker for me. Best band ever. I got Kiss, Asylum as my number 1. This is the birth of the best Kiss lineup. You get Bruce Kulick coming into the fold. Obviously, Eric Carr is already there. This album is just so good. One of my favorite Kiss albums. You get Who Wants to Be Lonely, Tears Are Falling. Obviously, King of the Mountain to kick it all off is great. You get these great Eric Carr, Bruce just playing loud and fast and heavy for I'm Alive and Love's a Deadly Weapon. I mean, the Gene songs are really good on here, but this is such an just a great 80s Paul album. And it is my number 1 for 1985.
Hey, Will, compared to some of their other non-makeup albums, is it your favorite of the non-makeup albums?
It's not, for me, it's not as good as like Carnival of Souls, obviously. That's a great album. But it's up there.
Okay. I'm assuming there's some sarcasm in that.
No, he means it.
Not even a little bit.
No. Will is deadly serious. Will is the king of the hot takes, and he likes what he likes, and that's what's great.
The Carnival of Souls is his baby?
Oh yeah, he likes it. Oh yeah,
so good.
Okay. I
Now,
thought okay.
no, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And technically, it's the first after I became a Kiss fan because I was late getting into them. That was technically the first studio album to come out. So I was pretty excited to buy a new Kiss album, and I do like some of it, but I digress.
Yeah.
If we're getting off topic, it is
Yeah.
better than Creatures of the Night. But anyways,
Hold up. Wait.
moving on.
Well,
Moving on.
hold, wait. Whoa. Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Okay, Bug, you're number one for 85.
So this band I was huge into in 1984. Dressed up as the lead singer for Halloween in 1984. So this album coming out, I knew it was coming out. I can't remember if it was from a magazine or a video show, whatever it was. I knew it was coming, and it was really the first album I remember anticipating and then going out and actually buying. Probably my least favorite of their first 5 albums, but it is Motley Crue, Theater of Pain. I agree with Will. Louder Than Hell would have been a better opening track than City Boy Blues. And if I never heard Smoking in the Boys Room again, I probably would be okay with that. But Raise Your Hands to Rock, Keep Your Eye on the Money. I like it all. It's not a great album, but it just holds that place in my, memory bank from being a huge Crue fan when Shout at the Devil came out, and then, they went from Black Studs, like you see in the poster behind me there, to their Entertainment or Death kind of glammed up, and you could almost say that this was the pre-Night Songs. Look What the Cat Dragged In, Slippery When this was kind of the album that made, glam metal, pop metal, hair metal singles, and it just holds a special place with me. So that's my number one.
I kind of figured that it would be number one given that great big poster behind you.
I just got that from Marty today.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Right on. All right, Lance, you're number one for 1985.
Yeah, well, it's not my number one, but Bug's number one pick. I have major memories for that album. It didn't make my my list, but Theater Pain, during the fall of '85, I had moved, to the other side of the state and had a whole new set of friends and whatever, new school, everything, new town, 3-4 hours away from where I grew up. And there was a guy that I met that summer, and every day he'd pick me up and take me and my brother to school. He and his sister. And so, wherever you are out there, Steve Christian and April Christian, we would every morning. I could count on y'all to arrive at the same time and with the same cassette in the tape deck, and that was Theater of Pain. And so that little short 5-minute ride to work, we always could squeeze in at least Smoking in the Boys Room and maybe a little bit of Home Sweet Home or something else, Louder Than Hell or whatever. So anyway, that's my memory for that album. My number one is Night Ranger 7 Wishes. Is it my favorite album by Night Ranger? Maybe not. But 7 Wishes, the title track, I think is great. There's a lot of stuff I say about this in Tim Darling's book. Y'all need to buy it if y'all don't own it. Sing Me Away, the Night Ranger album guide. I'm always trying to support Tim here, okay? So yeah, I don't know if I figure all of y'all either are part of this book or not. But anyway, this album, there are some really great songs. I love 4 in the Morning. To me, it's, cut from the same cloth as When You Close Your Eyes. Cinema Street, the first single, was just, the lyrics in it's incredible. What a great ballad. And which, This Boy Needs to Rock, to me, is one of those songs that back then I thought of it as a poor man's You Can Still Rock in America, but I grew to appreciate it more and more, and then I'd see them play it live and just like, this song really kicks, it really rocks. So yeah, is Night Machine a little on the cheesy side? Yeah, I mean, you can blame, I think, some alcohol, and I think what Vince and Tommy came in and sang
Vince and Tommy are welcome. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yes, this isn't my favorite Night Ranger album, I don't believe. But it's right up there, but it is my number one album of 1985. So
All right, so my number one for 85, if people haven't figured it out by now, one of my favorite bands. And this is actually the period where I didn't first hear of this band, but when I first heard them, because I distinctly remember being home for Christmas break and listening to the same top 40 station I always listened to, which was a US station. And they had a top five request uh, program that would play at like 11 o'clock at night. So I was on my Christmas break, so I was staying up a little bit longer than I normally would have. And 5 nights in a row, I heard this song called Big Money. And I'd never heard, I didn't know who it was the first night. And then the second night I caught it and they said it was by this band called Rush. And thought it was a pretty cool song. I didn't rush out, no, I didn't run right out and buy it then, but I thought it was a cool song. And then it was about a month later, maybe 2 months later, that in my hometown, in easternmost part of Canada, like most of us are in, I realized that my hometown now had much music. And the way I learned that was because I was flipping the channels and I stumbled upon something on Channel 8, which at the time didn't have anything on it. And they were playing this video for a song called Mystic Rhythms. And so that's when I realized that we had much music, which was a big deal. So those are the first two songs I heard from Rush. And so they became one of my favorite bands ever. And the album Power Windows was the album both of those songs came from. Came out late 85. And this album, some people don't like it because it's got a lot of synthesizers on it. I just think that the songs are great. Manhattan Project, Marathon, Territories. I just love this album. I think it's a really, really satisfying listen. And just the fact that it was actually quite a while before I got this album. It was not one of the first albums I bought, but the fact that the first two songs I heard from this band were from this album was special. Now, the Big Money, all because I was hearing it on this top 40 station, it didn't surprise me to find out later that it actually peaked at 45 on Billboard. So it was almost a top 40 single. It's pretty catchy. The video got a lot of play at the time. It's them playing on this like faux Monopoly board. Whether or not you think it's aged well or not, Mystic Rhythms is just a trip of a video to watch. It was directed by Jerry Casale from Devo. So when you know that, it kind of makes a lot of sense. But a great album, one of my favorite bands. And like I said, between Rush, Night Ranger, and Bon Jovi, it was really tough to pick the order, but I'm standing by my list as of filming this. So that Rush Power Windows is my number one album for 1985. And there you go, folks. I think we had almost equal parts common ground, but very few of us had the same albums listed in the same order, which is cool. We had a lot of variety, and thanks to everybody for providing that variety. As always, I'm interested out there. What are your favorite albums from this year? What are your favorite memories from this year? And what does this music mean? We love doing these year-end countdown videos, and because we're all kind of suckers for the 80s, we tend to do these ones. Although usually Bug and I will do a 70s one. We'll slip the 70s one in, and that'll continue to happen. But anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. I want to thank Lance and Will and Bug for sitting in with me. This has been our personal picks for our top albums from 1985. Thanks to everybody for watching. We'll see you all later on Tim's Vinyl Confessions.